Let's go a few weeks later, January 24th, the Royal Rumble. It's a rematch here for The Rock and Mankind for the world title. It's an I Quit match. And this winds up being one of the more brutal matches of all time. We've talked about this in long form. Check it out in our archives if you'd like. It's 21 minutes, 46 seconds. The gist is they play a tape from a Mankind promo earlier in the night when Foley has the mic in front of him, his lifeless body, so it seems, that The Rock has shoved it down there, and they play the tape over the PA. I quit and I quit. So it's a screw job finish, but that's not really the story. The story is, and it's hard to watch now, brutal chair shots to the head over and over and over again. And Meltzer would crucify it, as a lot of people do if you go back and watch it. We didn't know what we know now about head trauma. We should say that. And thankfully, I don't think we'll ever see anything like this ever again. What were you thinking watching that match live? I know we've talked about it before, but it's worth briefly touching on here.
Yeah, a lot of cringing. It was violent. It was brutal, and look, it's not just difficult to watch now. It was difficult to watch back then. It was something that you were like, okay, I've seen it. Enough is enough, and move on. But it was ugly is the best way to describe it. And Barry Blaustein went on to make that a focal point of Beyond the Mat. Yeah, it's hard to watch. It really is. And even being, quote, hardcore in the business type stuff, nothing will prepare you for that. It just was a testament to the toughness of Mick Foley, and that's not always good.
Let's also mention there is a little bit of hurt feelings on the other end of this. Mick Foley would write about it in his book where he didn't feel like The Rock took care of him, and maybe The Rock took some liberties, and I'm sure they've fixed it over the years. But do you remember hearing anything about there being some hurt feelings at the time?
At the time, no. And I think that there was an overall feeling from probably everyone involved in the match and those around the business. It may have been a little too much. That you look at it at the time, and this was something that both guys really wanted to do. Sounds great on paper before you actually do it, but when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to get that eraser out and change what you have written in your mind. So you go through with it.
And in fairness, he probably, listen, I've never talked to The Rock about this, but I assume he probably got a little bit caught up in the moment, and you're running on adrenaline and crowd reaction, and you sort of get lost in it. And it's not like you can properly communicate with this person who is quote unquote selling. So, I mean, I could see how it would happen, but I also feel like if somebody was really hurt or there were hurt feelings, there's probably going to be a conversation after.
Well, I would hope so. And in the moment, in the heat of the action, it is oftentimes hard to say. I remember Mick Foley coming back after the Hell in a Cell match with Undertaker in Pittsburgh and having thumbtacks all over him and saying to me, "Hey, I apologize for not getting the thumbtack spot."
Right.
It's like, Mick, you did get the thumbtack spot and they're stuck all over you. So in the heat of the moment, you don't always know. You ask a guy, "Are you okay?"
Right.
They say, "Yeah, I'm fine. Let's go."
Right.
In the heat of the moment, he may have just been saying, "Yeah, I'm okay. Let's go." Maybe he didn't say anything. Because he didn't say anything, then he's good. When someone's hurt, they'll say, "No, I'm hurt."
Yeah.
And some guys don't want to do that.
Well, not only that too, but you got to remember, Nick may not have, I mean, listen, he clearly got a concussion during this. So he's probably not where he can properly communicate. And Rock not knowing what we know about head trauma. I guess the reason I keep giving a caveat there is I'm trying to say, I don't think The Rock intentionally meant to do permanent harm to anyone. I know that sounds silly, but The Rock has been crucified for this over the years. And it was a different time where we didn't know what we know now. And it'll never happen again, but it's just hard for me to imagine that anyone would maliciously and purposefully with bad intent do anything to Mick Foley, if that makes sense.
I know for a fact. I mean, no one can sit there, but I know Rock, I know Mick, and I don't even think that they could convince me, that Rock could convince me. Yeah, I wanted to take his head off. I wouldn't believe it.
Right.
I know that there was a lot of respect and admiration between the two, and both are professionals. So you couldn't convince me that Rock was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to take liberties and swing at the guy, without they did discuss it ahead of time and had an idea of how brutal it would be. Sometimes it's just worse in real life, folks, and people get carried away trying to paint a picture,
right,
that they have in their head that sometimes they can't see. You can't see the forest for the trees.
And there is also the old, it's not who goes over, it's who got over deal. And if you're trying to build that, hey, The Rock is mankind. I mean, not The Rock, but mankind is Rocky, and he has no, there's no quit in him. You can't, he's never going to do that. So supposedly they had agreed on 5 chair shots. It becomes 11, and there's hurt feelings. The other thing that's of note here that we have touched on, and I want to move on from this, but beyond the mat, Barry Blaustein is there filming Mick's wife, Colette, and the kids, all ringside, watching their husband and dad get obliterated by the chair. And man, that's kind of hard to watch in the movie. In hindsight, do you think Vince regrets allowing Blaustein to film the family here? Cause it doesn't exactly paint the best picture of the company.
Yeah. And we've done, a whole podcast on that movie in and of itself. And I will still stand by, it wasn't represented. It was going to be a documentary and something that was going to be in film houses and art houses, not distributed commercially. So yes, the answer to that question is yes, because I think that people will often gravitate to the negative and the sensationalistic of anything. Just that's easy. People want to see that. People want to see what they're not supposed to see. People they are intrigued with negativity, which is sometimes hard to comprehend, but I get it. And so, yeah, I think that they portrayed this in a way, but I don't know it was an accurate way.
The next night on Raw, Big Boss Man is going to beat The Rock. That's right. The Big Boss Man beats The Rock in a hardcore match to determine the #1 contendership. Rock's going to grab a camera and take a photo during the match. Lots of brawling through the crowd. He's even going to whip the Boss Man with Earl Hebner's belt. He uses the rock bottom on the stage. Prince Albert runs in. Rock hits Albert with a chair, gives Boss Man the people's elbow. Albert makes the save. Boss Man gets the pin in 4 minutes and 41 seconds with that Boss Man slam. And The Rock goes nuts, destroying Boss Man with a chain and Albert with a TV monitor. Everybody's bleeding. Rock also destroys Sergeant Slaughter, another referee, and even your brother, Dr. Tom. So we're seeing a badass version here of The Rock. Is this to show the dark side, the mean side, the angry side? What are we trying to accomplish with The Rock here in this segment?
Well, I like to call that going Samoan.
Okay.
And Rock did it pretty damn good. And this was an opportunity to just show an unhinged Rock, and holy shit, you piss this guy off, well, what's going to happen? So yeah, that was a going Samoan Rock, and be able to go out and beat everybody's ass. You then have completely forgotten that he just got pinned for 1, 2, 3.